I'm Dan Morris, you're watching Boasts and Dan Bushcraft, and today, I'm hyping it up, it's not that exciting, but today is our 200th video, although I don't really count it because a lot of those that have took me up to 200 are just shorts, and that's just laziness. But, vitamin coffee. The 200th video, yay, exciting times, but not really, because this is quite a simple video about a simple thing. I'd got a whole plan. I won't go into detail, but I got a whole plan of a very specific video that I wanted to do in the woods, but things haven't quite come to fruition like that, and I simply haven't got what I need yet to do it, and the weather's pretty grim. So instead of this, and as the weather is so grim and cold and frosty, let's take a look at something completely different. And you guessed it, you can see me at the back of the garage, which pretty much means if I ain't fixing something, I'm messing with something, and the most likely thing I'm messing with is, yeah, you guessed it, it's paraffin related. Take a look at this. The invasion has begun. Look at this little flying saucer looking jobby. Marvellous. This is the Chalwyn anti-frost heater, as it says proudly on it there with its little red label. And this, when it comes to, I can't stop it from spinning, it's like a blooming Christmas bauble. This, when it comes to heaters, lamps and things like that, while this, to be honest with you, I just, a little downwards angle there. This is about as absolutely simple as it gets. It's really the most uncomplex thing I think I've ever seen. Charming little thing, really. Now the idea of this, what it actually is as it says, it's an anti-frost heater. It's not really designed as a room heater to heat up a large room or something. It'd add heat to places, and it would obviously heat up small areas. But really this harks back to the days where people had either outside bathrooms or rooms sort of to the outer side of the house, pre-central heating, where you'd probably have one main fire, a coal fire or otherwise, and that would basically warm the entire chimney up, and your chimney then acts as a storage heater. But rooms on the extremities of the property aren't going to really benefit too much from that. And the idea really about this is you can use it to stop pipes from freezing, and just to keep the temperature way above freezing so that your pipes aren't bursting, or your toilet doesn't freeze, or indeed your plants don't die. You could use this greenhouse, shed, anything, anywhere where you just need a light but constant source of heat just to keep the frost off everything, really. Now in older times, I suppose people would have used it for all manner of things, preventing garages from freezing and stuff like that. These days you've got to be careful what you say, because the internet is full of people who seem to think the moment you see a flame, everything else just erupts into a raging inferno, and oh, if I use that inside my house it'll catch fire. Like, common sense is not that common. For those people who have those concerns, stick with electric heaters then, because, you know, this probably isn't for you. I think with a bit of common sense, safe as ours is these things. I'm not recommending you light the thing and disappear on holiday for a fortnight though. So anyhow, this thing, it is the most beautifully simple little thing ever. There is your little heat diffuser cap. Charming. Bit grubby, will be. And here we have the actual bit that does the business, the mechanism. Now, this thing is very similar, in fact, exactly the same as what's inside of the road lamps that we looked at a little while ago. And as you can see, the wick is in the middle there, comes up, and you have this reverse cowl system. So it's just very similar to the cowls that you see in, say, the 275 babies, where you can see that there it's a nice rounded shape with the crescent moon shape in it to basically to pull the airflow. But these work slightly differently to do that, and I do have some theories about how you could make these a lot more efficient by adding holes to change the airflow. I'm not going to do that to this one. I want one that's a really rough example of it, just in case it doesn't work and I end up just ruining it. But there's not even a thread, just pokes in. That's as simple as it gets. So let's get a bit of fuel in it. It is a bit wet. I have had fuel in it before, but I give the tank a good flush. as is always a wise thing to do when you buy these old paraffin appliances. Let's get some juice in it. Lovely. Now, my favouriteest thing about this little simple thing is, whenever you're doing this and filling them up, you always spill a bit, yeah? So you'll always get a bit on the top of this, that and the other. It's got this second ring in the middle where it's pressed down in the metal. If you can just see it there, look. And it acts like a draining board and just guides the spilt fuel back into the tank anyway. I think that's actually really quite a clever idea. It saves you overfilling it and throwing it everywhere. This thing, like I said, is just a plug. Poke it back in. Don't force it down. Just put it so as it goes down and sits down. It's not supposed to make an airtight seal. Plus, when you put the cover cap back on it, this whole thing has to twist with the cover cap to actually lock it on into place there. Now I need a lighter. And simplest little thing. Get that wick lit. And as we do with all of these things, tweak it right down and let it warm up. Because as it warms, the paraffin's going to vaporize faster and boil itself into the vapor that's actually burning there. And the flame will grow. And the disadvantage of this is you can't really see the flame once you've got that cover cap on it. And if you get it wrong, it's going to be emitting a lot of smoke. So we'll let it warm up. All right then, so we've given that about 5 or 6 minutes. It's now toasty warm. And with these particular style of heaters, you don't want a big flame. Remember, yes, it's a heater, but it's not, the idea of it is not to be a massive heater like the Valavectors that I have not actually done a video on yet. Those are the ones I actually do use to heat the garage. Like I say, this is really more about keeping frost off. If you've got a small shed that you have projects in that you work in, like 6x4 or something, then you're definitely going, on a cold day, it's definitely going to make a big difference to you. 2 of them would keep you up. I mean, I've had it spaces like small sheds and stuff, you can heat them with the lamps themselves. And in this garage, once you've got it to temperature with the Valavector heaters, I can switch them off and just leave 2 or 3 of the 275 babies on, and that holds the heat. So it depends on what you do with it, but you don't want a massive amount of flame up there because you've got all the gauze and stuff in there. Now when the flame contacts that gauze, it'll smoke, and the reason why it'll smoke is and this, it's not as simple as just, well, the fire's touching it and there's carbon in the exhaust fumes and stuff. It's a bit more complex than that actually. And it goes back to a bit of how the mining safety lamps work, because some clever person worked out that flames can't pass through a steel mesh. If the mesh is tight enough, a flame won't actually go through it, because what happens is as the flame hits the steel, it dissipates the heat through it and stops it from passing through. That's why the mining lamps don't set fire to methane and stuff in a mine, because the heat is dissipated through that metal and the flame can't get through, and any gas that goes in the other way will just burn inside of the mesh. Now all that being said, you're thinking, well, that's fascinating, but how does that accrue to it smoking? That's bizarrely simple. What'll happen is, if your flame wants to be that tall, but it can't, it can only be that tall because of that mesh, that means the potential fuel that has been sucked up and burned is more than the flame can allow. So that's where you're getting extra exhaust gases, and that will then turn to carbon all over this thing. So maybe that is a little technical, but that's basically what's happening. More flame than is required will basically lead to poor combustion, which will carbon the devil out of it. And some mesh you will get a flame through. There we go. And you can see with this one very clearly, if I use the light, you see the flame will not pass through that mesh. Yeah, even if I put it blunt onto it, won't go through it at all. You see what I mean? Cannot go through it. But you can see it smoking, so even with the lighter that's using gas, which is quite a clean burning fuel, you'll get smoke out of it. That's why you need to keep your flame really smaller than you'd think. But yes, it is fascinating to think that just a wire mesh like that will literally stop a flame from passing through it. And how do you know if it does? Test it, because if it's a big, the wider the wire mesh, the more likely it will, the finer it won't. And obviously that mesh is fine enough, because as you've just seen, a flame won't pass through it. That was a lot of waffle to say if you have it too high, it's going to smoke. We like to be very scientific on Bosun Dan Bushcraft here. Right then, fit this back on, and it locks in with a twist, or it will do when I've got it in the right place. There we go. And that's all seated in, happy and nice. Now give that a few moments to let the actual body of it heat up, and check it for any smokiness or if it smells bad or anything like that, because that's when you know you've got the flame too high. You can see the flame through the very top of the mesh, which helps you to just judge that you've not gone too far. You see, cute little thing. So unlike a lot of the heating things and stuff, these ones are not going to give out a lot of light. There would just be a faint glow. But if we use the whiteboard to show, there's no smoke coming out of it. So that's burning really nice and clean. Right, so yes, that has had a few minutes to get itself nice and warm. And it's surprising how much heat is coming out of that for a tiny little flame. Doesn't really smell. It certainly doesn't smell any more than any other type of lamp, so you know it's running well when it doesn't smell. And the strangest thing with these heating appliances is quite often they will work with some of the really small flames you wouldn't think. Like the Valor Minor behind me there that we've done videos on before, that uses the same 40mm wick as the Valor Vectors and many other heaters. And even though it's the same wick and technically the same amount of burn, and therefore theoretically the same amount of generated heat, the shape in what they are then in changes everything. So if you think, you know, you've got your heat, your convection, conduction, and the other one has escaped me. But these are all working. These are all convection heaters. Basically, it's turning the air, and the larger the device that turns the air, the more efficiently that these things work. So this thing will heat the room far better for having the cowl on the top of it, pulling hot air, cold air into it, heating it, and then sending it out the top. It'll heat the air much more efficiently than if you just take the thing off and leave it as just the flame. This is exactly the principle that when we did the plant pot heater with the tea light candles, that's exactly the way that works. It's not that you're getting some magical amount of heat out of the tea light, like we've found a crazy way to get more heat from a tea light. It's just about the way that it's distributed. Somebody did comment on that video and was quite angry, saying I'm talking absolute nonsense, because basically the heat's the heat. And you're like, yeah, it is. I get you. I do get you. But think of the radiators in your house. If that was one solid water pipe and it was the same temperature as the radiator is, but it was just one water pipe, wouldn't work, because it doesn't have the surface area to transmit it to the air. Or again, if you look at your household radiators, behind them there are all little fins and stuff, and they are there to suck air through. And one of the main reasons why your radiators might get less efficient over time is all of those little air spaces fill with dust, so the air can't flow through them quick enough. So a duster on a stick and clear them out, and you'll probably find your rooms will heat up quicker and things like that, because it's convecting the air under the processes of heat. So to anybody who thinks this thing doesn't make a difference, try it with the plant pot heater. Please do have a look at that video, but have a go and you'll be surprised, because it does work. Just having that upside down pot on it to diffuse the air around, it makes a huge difference to the actual heat energy. Like the Minor isn't in its box that's designed like the Vectors and other things. It's not in its box that's got the airflow to really push that air around like a radiator does. That doesn't have that, and it doesn't have it because that isn't primarily designed to be a heater at all. That's designed to be a stove. It just works in the same way, and it will heat a room up, but it's not going to do it as quick as the ones that are in their own convection boxes that are designed to shift large quantities of air. And that's all this is doing, really. It's taking a small flame, and then it's got a system on it to pull the air through and circulate that air in there. So is this thing particularly useful for bushcraft? Well, it depends what sort of bushcraft you're doing. I am not going to recommend that you take this into tents and stuff like that, because when you've set yourself on fire, I don't want to be accused of that. I would. If I was on my own in a decent sized tent, I'd be more than happy to have that sat somewhere calmly, minding its own business. Small rooms, maybe you've got a log cabin, you think. It really depends on what you're doing. But to anybody out there who's got an older house where you've got rooms that you know are cold and they're condensation-y and, you know, stuff like that, that might help you out. And when I say that, really, we're looking at bathrooms and things, aren't we? Like, to anyone who's got there's a heck of a lot of terraced houses out there where your kitchen and bathroom is like an extension off the back, so that's really far away from the main body of the building, and they tend to be always cold and damp on account of it. These things would be great for that. Outhouses or anywhere where you'd rather stuff not freeze, these would be banging for that. It's been on a little while now. It still doesn't smell. It's not unpleasant. It's soaking wet because I threw paraffin all over it, as you saw. But it's just going to sit there now, glowing away, and you can see the sort of, like I said, it's not super bright or anything like that. But if I just turn the lights down a little bit, you can see that it does give off its lovely little UFO sort of glow. That hook was very hot, and it is pumping out quite a nice amount of heat, to be fair. With patience, I think that would heat up a sizable area. I'm not going to do it today, but I could let the garage cool right down, chuck this thing in it lit, and see how long it takes to raise the temperature a couple of degrees. But it's a working thing to stop your stuff from freezing. An ideal little heater. Now that tank there, I haven't measured it, but I can tell by looking at it, it's probably a little bit more than half a litre. So realistically, with the size of the flame that's going on in there, that tank's going to run that for potentially 4 or 5 days constantly. I know that I can get more than 30 odd hours out of the baby lamps when they're running constantly, and their tanks are tiny. They're only like half a litre. They've got really, sorry, they're only like a quarter of a litre, about 250 millilitres or something on the babies. I haven't measured them. You can just sort of tell when you're filling them up with a jug. So for the size tank on that, you can get 4 or 5 days at least out of it with a nice slow burn. So, you know, it is something. And again, greenhouses, if you're into growing stuff, you like your greenhouse, that puppy can get you there better than a candle, because it's, you know, it's relatively well protected as well. It's not easy to knock over. It's fairly safe in a greenhouse, to be honest with you, and that'll keep the frost off whatever it is you grow. Keep the frost off your brassicas or whatever on earth you might be growing in a greenhouse at this time of year. I'm not really much of a vegetable guy, so I don't really know. But there we have it. So just a short one today. Is that a bug jumped in my coffee? No, it's just a bubble. There we have it, guys. Just a short one for my 200th video, and very soon we will be back in the woods again. We would have been today, but I've had some stuff that's not been quite delivered. I wanted to do a sort of a review video on it. I won't go into too much detail, but I wanted to do a review video on a classic product, and basically I haven't got the stuff delivered yet to do that, so we'll get on that another time. But there we have the Chalwyn anti-frost heater. Charming little thing. I can't really give you a date on these because they've been produced for absolutely years. You could probably find them brand spanking new. But that's about all I really need to say about the heater. So please do like and subscribe. I've been having quite a good influx of subscribers recently. But I get the feeling there's a lot of people who are watching who aren't subscribed. And it does make a difference to all of us. I'm not really interested in monetizing it. I don't make any money on this channel. That's not really my thing. But it gets it out there to more people. And I know that to a lot of people, they're probably like, what's this nerd waffling on about paraffin lamps for? But it saves them. You know, these things are out there and they do work and they're great things to have. And my videos have saved a few lamps already. I know people, other YouTubers who have got in touch and I've helped them put these things back together. They're off now happily working and being used as opposed to being thrown away. So it's a little piece of history that's been saved there. So, you know, the more sort of subscribers you get, the more your videos are out there on this algorithm that everybody keeps. Well, everybody says those words. Nobody's got a clue what they're on about. They just use that term. They all heard it on The Big Bang Theory, and then they just want to repeat it because it sounds cool. At least that's my opinion. But no, the more subscribers, the more the video does get pushed, the more it does get out there, and the more of crazy little things like this can be saved and can be used. That might not be an important thing to you, but it kind of is to me. I like all these things, like the little weeble wobbles, charming little things that you can't knock over. Yeah, I don't know if I've done a video on these yet, but if not, I'll get round to it. But they're just charming and very, very, very practical things. But that really is, I've waffled too much for what is the simplest video ever. It's all I need to waffle about this. So as usual, guys, get out there, get having fun, get bushcrafting, get saving old paraffin and kerosene appliances and using them for your own amusement, and be safe. And I will catch you on the next one. And that is all from Bosun Dan. I shall take my vitamin coffee and vanish through my imaginary door.